Tuning you in now to the LBX Show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the LBX Show for February 8th, 2026. My name is Brandon Wiley. I'm your host, and we have a good show lined up for you today. It's going to be a little bit short, maybe shorter than sometimes, but we'll probably hit that hour mark. We'll see. But first, we're going to dive into some news you should know. We're going to hear from Kevin Williams with Open and Shut to review all the openings and closing trends from the last week. And they are beginning to pick up a little bit, even though it is a shorter Open and Shut than normal. There are some more that are opening up here as the year starts and kind of gets rolling. And then we're going to round out the show as Adam Pratt on Arcade Corner shares the latest updates from Wallop, as well as a little preview of some of the items that we're going to expect at a Museum Expo. So with that being said, let's dive into some news you should know. All right. Well, this week, IAPPA announced the Brass Ring winners in advance of their honors program, which is taking place in Xcaret, Mexico from May 12th to the 14th. This is when all of the different organizations and all the different categories can go to a special place around the world. It changes every year to receive their awards. And also there's always some education and great keynote speakers and some tours and everything else. So it's a good thing to go. And, obviously for the award winners, but it's open to anybody. So if you wanted to go and just have a great time in Xcaret, Mexico, and also get some good education and see some people and put on a black tie and all that other cool shit, then go to IAPPA Honors. I'm not going to be there, but you know what? There'll be lots of other people from IAPPA that will, and that'll be fun. So you could do that. But for our purposes, for this show, there's two categories that were relevant, and it's the FEC of the Year category and the LBE of the Year category. And if you recall, a couple of weeks ago, we had Barry Zellickson on a guest gab, and we went through all the top three finalists for both categories, and we had a great discussion about them. You can go and watch that. That was just 2 episodes ago. But they announced the winners. And so the winner for the FEC of the Year award is Hupalupa out of Istanbul and in Turkey. And you know what? I think of the three, as much as I am, I loved the Call You Need, and then also the Spy Kids HQ in Las Vegas, and Brian is a good friend, and would love to see them win as well. I truly think Hupalupa deserves it, and so we will take a quick look at their site and some of the reasons why I think that they really truly deserved this award over the others. But then before we do that, the LBE of the Year category winner was Deutschlandmuseum. And so Deutschlandmuseum took it down. And again, we'll also look at their site. While I do have a problem with a museum being categorized as location-based entertainment when there is an actual constituency within IAPPA for science centers and museums, they are of the ones in the categories, if you truly would consider them an LBE and not a museum, even though museum is in their name and on their website and everything else, then I do believe that they deserve to win as well. They have a phenomenal experience, and it truly is immersive. We'll take a look at a little bit, do a deeper dive. Again, if you just cross out the museum and you just call it Deutschland or something, then yeah, sure, then they won. If you call them a museum and they call themselves a museum, then if it acts like a duck and looks like a duck and quacks like a duck and calls itself a duck, then it's probably a museum and shouldn't be in the LBE category. But that's me. So it doesn't matter. I wasn't one of the judges. They did award Deutschlandmuseum as LBE of the Year. All right. So I want to take a quick look here at Hupalupa's website, and I'm going to pull this off here, throw this up, and yeah, let's dig into their website, because this is probably going to be the best way for you to be able to see. Obviously, they're already promoting themselves on their main website, their main homepage, about being the FEC of the Year. But they've got a lot of stuff going on here, and it really does look like an impressive facility, not just because of their attraction mix, but because of the coloring and the layouts and the design and the lighting. And I'm sure the guest experience is excellent. And it just, they've done some really great stuff. Their website is very functional as well, which is a big deal for me, as those of you who are regular watchers know. And so they have, trampoline park, a climbing wall, mini play. They have this thing called their Kid Venture, which is just like sort of like their soft play as well. They have a ropes course and bowling, and then just video games. So like they have an arcade there as well. And they have, a lot more things in addition to that. They have bumper cars. They have the DOF Robotics Riot. So it's a VR ride simulator. They promote virtual rabbits, but that's just like, something in their, thing. They have sports games, kids rides, redemption games, a carousel, Hologate, another DOF Robotics ride called the Hurricane. And it looks like in this particular case, it's it is their 4-seater. Okay. I don't know why I counted the legs. I was like, it's an 8-seater. Well, 4 people have 8 legs. So, that was just me being dumb. All right. And then they have the Paradrop VR, which is also something I had talked about recently. On Paradrop, they have a containerized Paradrop VR. This is not what this one is, but I am a fan of that attraction. So they've got a great mix of like VR attractions, standard redemption and arcade games, and then like physical stuff as well in active play, definitely targeted towards kids. But one of the things that we talked about a couple of weeks ago that I really like on their site is that they've got a, let's see if I can even find it. This one, oh yeah, here, that's the map. So it's labeled appropriately. They've got a phenomenal map here on their website that just gives you a sense of the overall layout and scale of this place. So, you can zoom in to the map, you can click on different areas, and it pulls up what that specific thing is with videos that you can watch then of that particular area, which is also really cool. So like in the convention area, it's like not just an image, but like, hey, why don't you watch a video? And we talk about that a lot on the show, being able to watch videos, getting a good sense of what that experience is going to be, and getting me excited before I even walk through the doors about what I can be able to do. And so again, they've done a great job on really identifying and laying out their whole space. So I think from everything that I've been able to tell amongst all the others, really deserve it. The only one of the 3 finalists that I actually have been into personally is Spy Kids HQ, and that is also an impressive facility. I've not been in the other 2, but again, I do think that these guys were definitely the right choice for FEC of the year out of the 3 finalists, and potentially I didn't see them all, but out of the all of the submissions that came through the door. All right, now for Deutschlandmuseum, we'll flip over to this one here, and this is. Again, I'm just going to let this video play, gives you a sense for what it is. It has already been voted. It's won a Thea Award in 2024 for World's Best Themed Museum. God damn it. It is a museum, not a fucking location-based entertainment facility, but whatever. And then it was also won Germany's favorite museum in 2024, and now has won they're calling it the world's top attraction, but it is the LBE of the year for IAPPA Brass Ring. And, again, they really, truly do have a great immersive experience. And if it wasn't truly, if they weren't calling themselves a museum, I would say like this was a pretty cool experience that are going to educate people. I was going to say kids, but really people on what it was to go through 2,000 years of German history. And so that's what's pretty cool about this is it gives you allows you to time travel through German history. And so anyway, it's a great facility and has a lot of, great historical things. Like, again, phenomenal museum, not a great overall, location-based entertainment facility. But again, we're going to have to work on what those definitions are with IAPPA, and I will continue to try to do that. But all in all, I think that of the 3, again, if we consider them an LBE, they would definitely have been the best out of the 3 as well. So great job for those who were on the voting committees for each of these LBE and FEC of the Year awards. And that is the first thing I want to talk about on News You Should Know. So next we've got up the big news here, a little picture of David McKillips. And so he has now stepped down as CEO of CEC Entertainment as of this week. He made the announcement on LinkedIn. There was no formal press release. Like literally the only way I found out about it and a few others in the industry found out about it is because, we are connected on LinkedIn and follow each other's news and information. And so, yeah, I got that word through LinkedIn that David McKillips was stepping down, and the board has appointed their current CFO, Scott Drake, to be the new CEO, and that will take effect on February 13th. So David, a little background here, David McKillips, he led the company through the post-pandemic recovery. He came in 2020, came in and helped with like a major restructuring after their bankruptcy as well, and then took the whole CEC system through a system-wide remodel. And, he has said that he's not ready to share where he is going next, but that it is an quote, an all new global challenge. So excited to hear what David has cooking and what he's up to. Not sure if it's going to be something that he is doing himself or if it is something that another company that he is joining. But, he's certainly, I have been a fan of his work that he's done at CEC. And yes, have there been some missteps, etc.? Sure. We actually go into it much more deeply on the upcoming Sound Off with Kevin Williams, and that comes out on February 10th. That's Sound Off number 109. If you're not watching this chronologically, you can go look up the Sound Off 109, and we dig into this transition. I was going to say transition a little bit more then. Now, Scott Drake, the current CFO, he brings his experience where he really worked over the last year and a half as CFO at CEC Entertainment. He strengthened the balance sheet. He managed strategic initiatives. One of those key things being a major north of $620 million credit facility that allowed them to rebalance their balance sheet. And in his past roles, he's been at Farmer Brothers Coffee prior to this, CEC Entertainment, and then at GameStop. Again, we'll talk a little bit more about my thoughts and views on that pedigree and what that might mean for CEC Entertainment, but give that a listen on Sound Off. I'm not going to go into that again here. But under Drake, what he has said is that the company aims to accelerate their domestic and international expansion, which includes their Chuck E. Cheese Adventure World indoor playgrounds we've talked about here in Open and Shut and also on Sound Off. And then their mega superhero playgrounds, which are like an expansion of their small superhero playgrounds that exist in a lot of their facilities. And then their first UK location. Just for some background, right now, as of late 2025, CEC Entertainment operates 657 venues, and then they just really want to focus on modernizing the brand experience, which they've obviously been doing, and also moving it to more of a transmedia organization, not just a pure location-based entertainment facilities. So anyway, check out Sound Off 109 on February 10th in just 2 days to dig in a little bit more to that news. All right. The last thing for news you should know is, I forgot, I put a picture of Scott Drake. So the previous picture was David McKillips. This is Scott Drake. He's the CFO stepping in, and we wish him much success. All right. So the Betson recently announced a few new redemption items and some merchandisers, some cranes this last week in advance of Amusement Expo International coming up in March. And one of them caught my eye, and not exactly in a good way. And so that's kind of what I wanted to call out here. Look, they announced a not exclusive, but a Ghostbusters wheel. This comes from Team Play. And there's a reason I set it right next to Big Bass Wheel from Baytech. So if you're in the arcade industry or amusements industry and you don't know what the Big Bass Wheel is, you should just pack up your bags and go home. The Big Bass Wheel has been one of the top earners in almost every single arcade for almost nearly a decade. If I may be getting my timeline right, it might be more than a decade even, or slightly less, but let's call it plus or minus 2 years. And has been one of the top earners and continues to be a top earner. And so one of the things I feel like you don't need to do to reinvent the wheel, to no pun intended, is to slap IP onto something that works just fine as Big Bass Wheel. Kids don't really fucking care if they're pulling a handle and pulling it down, the wheel spins and they get redemption tickets or credits. Like, that has worked for a decade. There's no absolute reason why we need to pay for IP called it the Ghostbusters wheel and have an additional cost slapped onto something that doesn't need to have that additional IP licensing fees. So when I saw this, it reminded me also when I walked the Amusement Expo floor last year and got pissed off when I saw the Wizard of Oz, we'll call it spinning dice, even though they have like a little gem that you spin instead. The Wizard of Oz branded thing that basically was the exact same carbon copy. And the Wizard of Oz thing came from Raw Thrills, a carbon copy of the same gameplay that comes from ICE in their Monopoly game. Now, yes, is Monopoly IP? Yes, it is. Is Wizard of Oz IP? Yes, it is. But we had the Monopoly game already, and that fucking works. And yes, it was with ICE, and Raw Thrills probably wanted to get in that same game, and they're like, well, what if we did Wizard of Oz instead, even though it's the old Wizard of Oz and not the new Oz? So it doesn't necessarily resonate with the 8-year-old who's been, watching Wicked. It resonates with the 68-year-old who remembers Wizard of Oz in black and white. Not 68. That was not fair to 68-year-olds. To the 88-year-olds who remember Wizard of Oz in black and white. So anyway, I don't understand why we need this type of IP and paying for the extra cost of IP on existing machines that already work. Again, I understand manufacturers need to create things to differentiate themselves. Team Play didn't have Big Bass Wheel because that was Baytech. So they're like, well, what can we do to compete with Big Bass Wheel? We're going to pay for extra IP, so we're going to go and get the Ghostbusters IP. Okay, great. Was there less expensive IP you could have got? Maybe. Why not do Angry Birds? Because apparently everything is Angry Birds, and I'm sure that IP is going for hella cheap right now because everybody's doing it. So why not do an Angry Birds versus Ghostbusters? I don't know how that resonates with 12 and under or 15 and under kids who are going to be playing these redemption games. So anyway, that was my little bit of a rant and a little bit of frustration. And if you are looking for these types of machines to put in your place, don't get caught up in the IP necessarily. I'm not telling you that the Team Play machine isn't great. It probably is great. I'm just not sure that if there's a premium based on IP, especially outdated IP like the original Ghostbusters or the original Wizard of Oz, it makes sense to go with something that has been tried and true for a long time. You will always find me as a futurist, somebody looking and willing to try new things. In this case, just slapping expensive IP on the exact same product doesn't seem to me to be the right move. All right. Anyway, that is maybe less news you should know and more opinion, Brandon's opinion you should know. But coming up after the break, we'll dive right into Open and Shut with Kevin Williams. Intercard is the only cashless system designed, developed, and manufactured all under one roof. They introduced cashless technology to the amusement industry and have been leading the way for over 30 years. Cashless systems from Intercard increase customer spending, guest satisfaction, and boost revenues by up to 30%. Intercard is so proud to be serving the amusement industry, and if you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you will become one soon.
Hey, big hello to everyone to this latest Open and Shut. It's wet outside here in London. What's it like with you, Brandon?
Clear blue skies, not a cloud in the sky.
Yeah, we got clouds.
I didn't even wear a jacket to the office today, so.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it is that time again,
right.
and let's get in.
Cool.
So we have quite a selection, as was speculated previously, that things would start to return to the chaos and confusion that we were seeing near the end of last year. We have a pause, and now we're getting back into the high teens again. So, as always, pause if I zip through any of these, but our friends at Sandbox, their franchise partner in Italy, has started to ramp up their production. We are seeing an interesting deviation from the norm here with the return of our friends, the cocktail robot, but within the 5,000 square meter facility, we have the usual layout, and we're now up into the high 70s.
Yeah. I'm glad to see that they're putting in the robot. They really need that as just a way to increase the per cap and just get people to stay and spend a little bit of time talking about everything. And it's a cool little gimmick too. It kind of fits the Sandbox VR vibe. But I'm glad to see that at least the franchises in Italy are putting them in.
And if you know anything about the particular robot that this group have been using, you'll know that it's not a million miles away from where they're located, this facility. But hey, let's hope that it works for them. As we both agree, a hospitality component to their particular entertainment offering is essential, I think.
Yeah.
What do we know? VR still continues to find a home. California gets Twist VR Arena. A mix of different components, so it's not a single offering, but it is a multitude of VR offerings. This site includes a zero latency installation, a free roaming installation, as well as others.
Okay. I mean, I'm a fan of the zero latency product. Palm Desert. I mean, look, there's not a lot of actual entertainment out in Palm Desert. There are some casinos out on the outskirts and lots of resorts. So this gives maybe some families some things to do, although Palm Desert, Palm Springs tends to draw more retirees on vacation than it does the young, or the ones looking to do something different. So it's interesting location for it, I guess I'll say.
I get the feeling that the team behind this particular project knows their audience relatively well, and they have deployed something that will fill a particular gap. We will wait and see how well it does and if that calculation was correct. Moving on, and we have the museums or the edutainment component being fulfilled here. The Pali Museum in New York, I really see this as one of those many pop-up installations based on celebrating Puttman's particular anniversary, 45th. The issue here with this particular one is that it has amusement machines in there as well as other type of machines, but it is following a familiar format that we've seen other museums around the globe emulate. It's just nice to see another one pop up. Again, I can't tell you for how long this will be installed, but I think it will be there for about 9 months.
Interesting.
Moving on, and our friends at Experience Factory in the Netherlands, they have got up to 2 facilities now. This latest Antwerp installation has a mix. It is an Experience Factory. They're not leaning heavy on their go-karting component. They are also promoting their karaoke escape rooms and other entertainment elements that they have in their mix. And we know that another Experience Factory is in the works.
Yeah, and this is interesting. I know there's some Belgian connectivity to Time Mission. So the Time Mission is in here as well. The founder has some connectivity there through other partners and founders, I think, in the Belgian area in the Netherlands. So maybe this is why, because it would be just surprising to see a Time Mission pop up, in an international location like this when they've been so focused on the U.S. market, I think is my issue. This is looks like very similar to R1, which is where the first Time Mission was established, and so it's got the go-karting, it's got axe throwing. I mean, it looks like almost an R1 carbon copy, which is not a bad. R1 is a great facility, but it is not surprising to me that there may be some actual joint ownership going on there.
The European approach to mixed-use leisure entertainment using a karting foundation is a model that others will be emulating, and I wouldn't be surprised to see our friends at Andretti's looking more towards pivoting to this kind of approach rather than just focusing wholly on the karting element. But again, we need to see a wider penetration of the Experience Factory into the market.
Yeah,
R1 has quite a footprint to keep up with.
It is a big footprint there. It is an impressive facility. I also did notice they have it under interactive darts, but when I look at the darts, it is actually the Dart City darts that was also developed and placed into R1. So definitely some connectivity there.
Yeah, we're seeing a war in the AR darts and social darts sector at the moment. Our friends at F1, they've been pushing themselves very hard. They closed down for a period of time their F1 experience that they had in Las Vegas, and then it's thrown its doors wide open again now. Grand Prix Plaza. It is just the mixed experience. It's got the drive in there, the karting element. It's got the museum. It's got the active entertainment. It's got the simulators. It's got the F&B. A definite approach towards how you do the big stylized presentation of the brand as an entertainment offering. And I expect to see this rolled out at other cities internationally that have an F1 race take place in their locale, kind of as a base to be used during the races. This is actually their VIP area, an entertainment and social environment. So it kind of gives them a showroom. So we say F1's Netflix house approach.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting. I mean, then you can even sit here and like have a whole, really a full like F1 experience. Is this actually by F1, or is Formula One like the group that's behind all the F1 arcades and everything else too, or is this something totally different? They're just licensing the F1 brand.
The original concept before it was rebranded was, as you kind of allude to, a franchise offering through a third party. This one has been rolled into the F1 Experience Group, understanding that F1 Arcade is a separate operation, but is rolled in under control. And we saw with F1 Arcade going through a change in their management recently. So we're beginning to see a consolidation of the F1 out-of-home entertainment offering under a single umbrella.
Interesting.
Quite a large one there, 100,000 square is nothing to sneeze at, even with a go-karting component. So that is the same size as a Netflix house.
Yeah, and the retail space looks probably about as big as the Netflix retail space as well. And so that alone is going to fill up quite a bit of space. And the karting experience looked alluring. It was very well done.
They put some energy into this. The F1 Drive, as their karting experience is known, is being rolled out. Again, it is interesting to see how they did the simulation here. It wasn't an F1 arcade, but it was their interpretation based on their experience. We will be talking about future versions of this, I'm very much sure of. Our friends in the clawcade arena are continuing to grow. I will casually pick one out of the flood of new openings just to talk about. Our friends at Clawzania, they threw their doors open in Texas, a crowded market for clawcades. From what I've seen, it falls into a retail unit. It offers the standard mix of Asian-themed merch as well as high-level cranes with quite a high level of themality, or brandality, I should say, to the mix. And there's 6 venues in, so again, part of a chain opening.
I'm really curious. What really's got me curious, actually, the picture you pulled has these looks like maybe some Hummers out from, some H2s, H3s, Jeeps. Okay, Jeeps, but they're fully branded Clawzania. So I'm really wondering like what sort of local community activations they're doing with those, or if the owners are just driving them around to just advertise, or if they're doing some actually interesting activations with the brand in the local community to drive people in.
Looking at the owners behind this chain, they're very much about community and they're very much about publicity. If you look at their if you look at their Facebook, at their X, and at their Instagram, they're very much front and center, as is the rule when you're doing clawcades. It seems, clawcades are the pinnacle of social media promotion for your venue and for your customers. Also wrapping your vehicles, wrapping the family vehicles in the company branding is tax deductible, if I remember correctly.
It is. No, they're super savvy to do that for sure.
Yeah.
And look, the location for these things does matter. And the fact that they've put themselves next to a gelato location, it makes perfect sense, right? Kids and families going to get some gelato and then going into the Clawzania. Now, question mark for me is whether they own both and they just happen to take the retail space next door, and that's how they're kind of treating them separately, or if they just pick the location really well.
Well, you're spotting the similarity in the sign manufacture,
exactly. Yes, the coloring looks very similar. Yeah.
Whatever the reason, my main interest regarding the clawcades is to watch the longevity and how long the momentum can keep up, and what they're going to do as their secondary and tertiary entertainment mix. And at the moment, we're riding high on the wave. Let's hope that continues. Moving through, and we're going to touch upon this in Sound Off, a little bit about what's happening with Tato, but we're lucky enough to see another opening, the F station approach. So Tato station comes in 3 fruity flavors, and their F station is aimed more at a mall internal mid-scale offering. It is amusement, it is crane machines, and of course our friends at Tato, or the Game Station division, is celebrating its 55th anniversary at the moment. So, you know, it's an important milestone for their 160 venues. Moving on, and we jump into the world of Dave & Buster's franchise. They celebrate their Dominican Republic first facility. Big opening launch party, well attended. This is a 3,200 square meter facility, and it does have social bays inside. So they do actually have the darts and the shuffleboard system. I didn't see an arena system, but it was interesting to see that this franchisee had taken on board the full gambit of the Dave & Buster's mix to put into their location.
Yeah, I mean, they went full gambit with the, I mean, it's not a small square meters, small square footage space, but yeah, 92 machines, probably a little bit lighter on the number of machines as far as
Yes.
typical Dave & Buster's. They're usually north of 100. But yeah, to have the bowling, the social bays, and obviously their full F&B, they went all in on their mix.
You know, 30,000 square feet's worth of facilities, nothing to sneeze at in the Dave & Buster's, but I would agree the mix does seem to be heavier on the food, social bays, components, leading towards the amusement, going back to its midway approach. But again, from the video, it's interesting to see how they've laid the space out. Moving through, and we have more of that resort entertainment edition that I touched upon last year, have a resort tourist entertainment venue and add a competitive socializing component on top. Center Parcs has been dabbling with this concept for a number of years, and they have already released their first entertainment hive. Obviously, entertainment hub must have been taken. The entertainment hive has the mini golf. It has the shuffleboard. You know, it has the dart system. It has the bar. So we are seeing, the creation of a brand within a brand, as it were, trying to deal with the captive audience that they have at Center Parcs. It was interesting to see that their golf is done by our friends at Puttify. It was also interesting to see, you know, that this is the second interpretation of this, and they still haven't got a unique brand, but they have started pushing this as their addition to their number of entertainment venues out there.
Yeah. And, it's nice to see that they didn't just phone it in, like throw in some components. I mean, they've really done a great job with their overall theming and tying the different attractions, right? So Puttify, they went with has very specific look and feel to it, but then they tied that look and feel into the rest of it. So they're not in juxtaposition with each other. Looks like they used a shuffly. Maybe I believe that's a shuffly there as well. So they've done a great job really making this feel like you're going into an actual venue instead of something that they just had an extra space at their resort and they just filled in some stuff.
What we saw with our friends at Butlins doing, they are following this, and I would expect to see some of the other parks going down this competitive socializing additional elements to their mix. The replacement of the sports bar, I think, would be the quickest analogy. Our friends at Lucky Strikes, we'll be talking about them also in Sound Off. They, in January, had 5 facility openings. I picked one of those 5 to talk about, and I would have to pick the one that is still questionable if they did throw their doors open when they said, according to their social media, they're about to, according to the TripAdvisor that they have. But anyway, so the latest addition to their high brand, high quality addition, the new, what I like to call the new wave of Lucky Strike entertainment venues, rather than the refurbishment we've seen of some of their older venues.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I mean, that's what I was excited to see here, was that at least it's Lucky Strike is continuing to open new locations using their brand, taking all their learnings they've had from their 360 locations and still continuing to infuse them in new higher end locations that really, I think, really define the Lucky Strike brand. And instead of just trying to refresh old Bolero locations or other acquisitions.
And I'll give a more detailed high altitude view of what's going on at Lucky Strike Entertainment, as I said in the next sound off. Going to the shots, and we're lucky we only have one to talk about, and really it's on the periphery of our sector. We have taking place while we're recording this, the Independent Cinema Conference, and that kind of shakes the tree regarding information, what's happening in the independent cinema scene, which is predominantly going for the dine and watch approach, or going for the VIP cinema application. Our friends at Look Dine In Cinema have been feeling the pain post-COVID, and they finally bit the bullet and closed down 3 of their Southern California venues. I'm not sure if one of those was also a Texas venue, but again, we didn't jump upon this information as much as we would normally do regarding an entertainment side. These venues don't have any cinetainment, and maybe that's kind of an indication of why they have found themselves in this particular difficulty. They have part of the puzzle in having the dine-in component, but they also seem to be missing a secondary entertainment component that could have helped. Anyway, don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves here, but I think we'll be hearing a little bit more about the difficulties of the cinema sector and the successes from the cinetainment sectors in the next couple of weeks. But here is some news, sadly.
Yeah, and I won't go in because we're going to talk about it further in sound off, but I will just say a few things here. First of all, there was a Look in downtown Chandler, which is maybe about a 10-minute, 20-minute drive from my office here, and they closed down as well earlier in the year. They have Look Dine In Cinemas has filed Chapter 11 as of February, yes. And so they're closing multiple locations and think looking to potentially restructure. I'm not sure, but I think I'll give my opinion on why they struggled on the sound off.
Agreed. Anyway, that kind of wraps it up for us. If you have any information or clarifications or corrections, please hit me up on LinkedIn or via the email. We have new stinger reports out there. Make sure that you're receiving them. And also, I had an interesting conversation with someone recently who didn't know that you can listen to the audio of all of our emails and articles. Go on the website and check it out. Yes, you can. And it makes a great aid to fall asleep when you're at the wheel driving home. Anyway, that's it from me, Brandon.
All right. Perfect. Well, another great open and shut, and we'll see you on the next one.
Have a good one.
Power the game floor with Arcades by Alan One. Whether it's perfectly pouring drinks in Dr. Pepper Soda Slam, grabbing official Butts on Things plushies, or defending cities from attack and missile command recharge, Alan One has something for every venue and arcade floor that will delight your guests. Each game is also enhanced with Major League Esports, a free app that tracks player top scores and brings guests back to your venue for more. Visit allen-one.com to learn more. That's allen-one.com. All right. Well, that was a great open and shut with Kevin Williams. Coming up next, we've got Arcade Corner with Adam Pratt. Let's give it a roll.
Hey everyone, it's Adam with Arcade Heroes. Just a little sleepy here, so apologies for any grogginess sounding from my voice. It hasn't been a super busy week in arcades, but there have been a couple of things popping up out there. First, with a Chinese company known as Hupalupa, where they have been on the, they're not newcomers to the industry. They recently, or I think it was last year, celebrated 35 years in existence, and they really hit the U.S. scene, I'd say, in around IAPPA 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, with their racing game Storm Racer. They recently won some top honors from the Chinese game industry, where they shared some interesting data as far as what the Chinese game industry is like, including that there's over 60,000 venues, and they've been very busy on their social media lately, particularly LinkedIn. For a long time, they didn't do anything with it, but recently, I guess, as a lot of people in the industry have been using LinkedIn more, have been posting there, and this is where they also pointed out that they have Hupalupa owned arcades over in China. This one's called Funloop Land. Very impressive setup of equipment here on this top photo. That's Sega's Mai, which sells for around $32,000 for a pair, and they have several of them. Hupalupa also recently worked with Konami to launch a game called Jubeat that had existed in Japan in previous years. It was known as Ubeat here in the States, and they've recently relaunched that game in China, but only in China there. But as you can see from some of the games that they have, these are some of these, actually all of these should be recognizable to you because they've existed in one form or another over here, except for maybe like this racing game in the background there. But like Kaiju Rampage Unite, which is now being carried by LAI Games, but in China it's known as Monster i3. There's an old Time Crisis 5. It feels weird to call Time Crisis 5 old. I remember when it was just a baby. Or Phantom Vanguard, and which is also, like, I need to double check on this, but this is launching pretty soon from LAI Games within North America, but it's already been available since last year in China through Hupalupa. There's the Chinese version of Minecraft Dungeons Arcade and Marvel Contest of Champions. So they're keeping busy with stuff. I imagine we won't hear about any new games that they will have until later this spring. Although speaking of spring, we have in a little bit over a month now is going to be Amusement Expo 2026 down in Las Vegas, as it happens every year about the same time of year. What is that, the third week of March, I think it is. And already we're having some teases or just some straight up information about what's going to be there. Amusement Source International is one that's been keen to be posting what they are going to bring to the show or to a show in several weeks in advance. They did this with IAPPA last year, promoting their stuff, but this year they are for Amusement Expo. They mentioned that they're at booth 1327. They're going to have 1,400 square feet of 20 plus new game titles, like the Crossbow Fishing here. Let's see if this will, okay, Dragon Kingdom, Trick Pong, which they had another post about, talking about how innovative this game is. Unfortunately, I missed this one at IAPPA. It wasn't at the ASI booth. It was at some partner booth, but it wasn't close by, and it was just one of those that flew under my radar, unfortunately. Like, I knew it was there, I just couldn't find it. And Storm Racer 2, which is currently available and selling through them. Betson's also selling Storm Racer 2 there, but yeah, if you're curious about some of the things that will be at Amusement Expo, this is a preview. I'm hoping that they fixed Dragon Kingdom. I was kind of shocked by how poor the quality was. Like the frame rate on this game was absolutely atrocious. It was almost slideshow quality. And so it's like, throw in a more powerful PC at least or something there. But so that's where it was a little hard to tell if the game was any good or not, because at least just when the frame rate's so low, it obviously makes it bad, but you can't really tell if the gameplay there is actually going to be solid or not just because it's so choppy. Now, I don't have any photos or media of this, but Alan One has also been teasing about their lineup at Amusement Expo. They're going to have a massive booth. They're going to have a bigger booth than Amusement Source. I think maybe even bigger than Bedson's booth, but I'm not 100% sure on the exact sizes there. Aside from Alan One has a 40x40 booth, which is going to be the largest that they've ever had. And they are going to debut a new Redemption game. They're also going to be debuting 3 Atari Recharge titles, but they're using a new cabinet design with some new what you usually call Pepper's Ghost technology, or pseudo holographic technology. Now, this effect has been around since, well, a very long time. Pepper's Ghost refers to the Disney effect in the Haunted Mansion, where it just used a display and an angled piece of glass or half silvered mirror to bounce that off, and it makes it look like the image is floating. But this has been used in the arcade industry since before the video game days, where you had those electromechanical gun games would use that. Some racing titles as well would use it, but more famously within the industry, Space Invaders did that. Asteroids Deluxe did, and there were a few others, but it's an effect that really hasn't been used in a very long time. The last one that pops into mind is something like the Holosseum by Sega, but that used a curved mirror and such, but it was tied to a Laserdisc player. But it still was, it's tech that's just kind of disappeared from our industry in the past 30-ish years or more. And so Alan One's looking to bring it back. And so it'll be very interesting. I haven't seen the cabinets yet. I know that they're currently building one, but once it's done, since I live relatively close by, then I'll have to go and check it out. Now, one last thing for our arcade corner this week, and I don't know how many operators out there watching this might have this particular game, but a few years back, a company called Griffin Aerotech based out of Indiana, they had created a indie side-scrolling shoot-'em-up game called Sky Cursor back in 2015 or so. But then a few years ago, they got a license with Devolver Digital for the very popular home console game Enter the Gungeon. But they completely changed it, created a totally new game out of it called Enter the Gungeon House of the Gundead, and turned it into a first-person light gun shooting game and made it almost like a dungeon crawling game and stuff. I actually did buy one. I do have to say I haven't been particularly happy with some of the quality on it, as the developers, Griffin Aerotech, decided to use these Sinden guns, which were created for home use, and they do not hold up very well at all for arcade use. But on top of that, it's not just that, it's that they're horrible to calibrate. They lose their calibration all the time, and then recalibrating them is not easy. It's not like most light gun games of the past, where you just shoot the targets on the screen and it calibrates it for you. You have to go in and manually change numbers, and then even then it seems to not get it right. And then I've had to replace the guns multiple times, and they break very easily. And so just if there's any indie developers that ever see this out there and you're thinking, hey, it'd be cool to make a light gun game, yeah, it'd be cool, but don't use any sort of tech that was designed for homes, because it's not going to hold up under the physical abuse that light guns regularly get. This is a problem with VR too, that I know a lot of people in the VR side of things don't want to admit. But like when I saw VRsenal come up with their guns where they could hang off the side. It was just like, that is going to destroy the thing. And it did. It's a bad idea to have something that isn't designed for this industry's physical use that happens. But anyways, Griffin Aerotech is ending production and support for this game. They also, I did download a new software update to it. I haven't had a chance to really test it out yet and see if it makes the game more stable. It's been having a problem where it would crash in a lot of certain parts of the dungeon. And the problem with this, with both the hardware and the software being unreliable, is that I had a lot of people come to my arcade just to play this game. They were very interested in it because it carries such a name with it amongst console gamers. But because the experience was so poor, because the controls wouldn't work right, or because the game would crash, or the controls wouldn't work at all, a lot of people soured on it, and I never saw them again. And that didn't leave them with a favorable impression of the game either. And even if the software update could improve it, they probably wouldn't come back, just because it was like, I had such a poor experience with this previously. And so it sucks. It really does. I would really love to see somebody grab this and essentially resurrect it to fix it, like create more stable software that doesn't crash so often, but primarily software that supports industry style guns. Like, there is a company out of Taiwan called Zero Plus, and they've designed a gun system that's been used in various different modern arcade games. Or working with Suzo Hap or somebody who has experience in this thing to be able to release a updated version. Like, I would pay for a conversion kit to essentially fix my Gungeon if such a thing could exist. But chances of that, I guess, are pretty low. But yeah, that is the arcade news that we have this week. So yeah, if you have a Enter the Gungeon game, then keep that in mind, get it updated, and maybe buy some extra Sinden stuff to hold on the side. And that gets us covered for this week. We'll catch you on the next Arcade Corner, as we'll probably have more stuff as we approach Amusement Expo International. We'll see you next time.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
All right. Well, thanks, Adam, for that great rundown for this week. And you know what? We've got Sound Off, as I mentioned earlier, 109 with Kevin Williams coming out on Tuesday, February 10th. And then we also have several Stinger reports coming out over the next 2 weeks. We've got one coming out this Tuesday on February 10th also, then one also on Thursday, the 12th, and then one the following Tuesday, good grief, February 17th. So we do have multiple Stingers coming out with lots of great information. So if you aren't subscribed to the Sting Report, go to lbxcollective.com, click on the Sting Report page, and go and put in your email address and subscribe. And that gets you all the good stuff that we send out on a regular basis. All right. Well, that is a wrap for this week's LBX show. This is Brandon Wiley signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking ass.